Howdy ho, friends and foes, and welcome to Dads on Life, your weekly episodic show about parenting from a male perspective. I'm your host, Jay Miles, and with me, as always, are my co-host, Keith Bogan.
Good morning, my friend.
Chad Holloway.
Good morning.
And Dave Dusenberry.
Morning, everybody.
Doug is on assignment. I saw him yesterday in Bethlehem, but he is on assignment doing something for a dinner for the township that he represents in Bath, PA. So he will not be joining us. Hopefully he'll be back with us next week if we record, because shit to do. But anyway,
Jason, given that we have a global audience, you should have specified Bethlehem, PA. Just saying.
You realize part of our audience, or one of the larger parts of our audience,
I'm just saying.
From there,
you aspire to a global audience. You got to think globally.
Eat my shorts. Today, well, I'm going to preface this by saying that at Thanksgiving dinner, which Keith was with us for, which was very nice. As much as we bust each other's chops, having Keith over and having him hang out in the house with the kids and that. We're at my in-laws' house that time, especially, and it was for Thanksgiving. It was very nice to have him around. But there was a bombshell dropped at the table on Thanksgiving. That is, Keith allegedly has never seen A Christmas Story. The mouth agape look of shock of my wife, my in-laws was, what in the hell are you talking about?
Loser.
But I will preface this, but I will add to this that I mentioned a scene because Keith has told me, I brought up something about Christmas, and Keith said that he will most likely be doing what is, it's not tradition, but it's what
damn well is tradition. What are you talking about?
what most Jewish people will do on Christmas, and that's go see a movie and go to Chinese restaurant. Which, if you've seen A Christmas Story, you know the scene. You know exactly which scene I'm talking. Rah 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 rah.
Chop.
Anyway, we're gonna talk about other, like, we glanced over, and we haven't done it with Dave. So we're going to talk about like the music and the traditions of Christmas, which I will add another thing, and that is Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
It's not Christmas until Hans Gruber falls off of Nakatomi Plaza.
Oh, damn straight.
Okay. I can't. I'm sure Keith will want to defend himself. So whoever wants to kick it off.
Sorry.
All right. Anyway,
well, so it's funny you should mention A Christmas Story. I'm like I said, I will. I'm going to be seeing that soon, and I'm sure I'm going to remember having seen it years ago. I just don't remember it now. But last night I was in a establishment where singing was encouraged by all of the people in the establishment, and for the first time ever, the proprietors handed out sheet music. I should say the words to various Christmas songs, so that the entire attendance could sing together. And you're gonna think that I'm a total heathen, but I bet you're the same problem. When they gave us the sheet music for Frosty the Snowman and several other traditional songs, you start to realize that you don't actually know all the words.
Yep.
And
what do you mean there's more than one verse?
I haven't been saying that all these years. There's stuff in there that I've seen it all, I've heard it all before, but it never sunk in. And like most people, I've been humming parts.
Yep.
Right. Because you gloss over it. You don't usually, for me with Christmas music, I'm just listening to it in the background. I don't really sing to it. So I've been fucking up the lyrics for a very long time.
and of course, try to get several hundred people on the same page to do the 12 Days of Christmas.
Oh my
Especially,
God.
and they started assigning a day of Christmas to different tables. So, we'd be going around the room, and naturally there was some impact of what they might have been ingesting. But we're all like, by the 10th, they were like, what was that verse again? I can't. It's been years since I've actually tried to think through what we've actually been singing. That song I know every word to, but I didn't remember. It's been so long since I've tried to do it.
Yeah.
And that particular song we didn't actually have the sheets for, so we were just faking it as we went along. And as we got higher in the list, the other tables would get quieter and quieter to be like, I can't remember. But I think I remember the words to things like Die Hard more than I do to more traditional stuff. I don't think I've seen Frosty the Snowman in 15 or 20 years, but I definitely grew up watching it all the time.
Now, when we were in the food part of when we were in the Christmas market yesterday, they had the cartoons playing on a big screen. I turned around and noticed that, oh shit, they're playing the cartoons. And it was I do believe one of them I saw might have been Frosty the Snowman. I don't know. I don't remember. But yeah, no. With the music, it's and I was in choir in that in middle school and high school, and no, I even then I didn't. I was like, that's what they say. But then again, we also didn't do. We did some pretty untraditional Christmas songs in high school. Um, we did the traditional ones, but we did one in particular that sticks out in my mind. In fact, I think we did it twice on our request because the seniors were allowed to request a song, but we ended up doing one. We kind of asked to do a second time, was called the 12 Days After Christmas, when everything goes back and they break up. You need to look that one up.
I'm a little worried about the lyrics of some of the things you were probably singing. Just saying.
No. This is high school, so no. It's clean, but it's exactly what you think it is. It's not a good breakup. Let's put it that way. But I shot that blasted partridge is one of the lines, so that I can remember. I mean, of course, a bunch of 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, we weren't singing blasted when we were practicing, but at the concert, we did sing blasted.
Well, I must say, I miss a tradition that I used to do, and I never introduced my kids to it. But the concept, and you would probably understand it better than I would. The concept of Christmas Eve Mass. Now, of course, as a Jew, I don't go to stuff like that. But
Never did.
If you go to the right church, it's just all the Christmas music, not the Frosty the Snowman stuff, but the traditional, deeply religious stuff. And by the way, in the bar we were in last night, every now and then there was a particular table that started doing that, and that's when they really captivated the room. People would like get serious and want to really participate.
Get emotional.
And it wasn't just about the drinking anymore. It was just people really subscribe to that, which is a lot of fun, and it's really good music too. And I used to do that with some Christian friends of mine probably 20 years ago, and then they got married and they drifted away. So I haven't had a chance to do that in many years, but that's a lot of fun. And I don't know if I don't think Justin's ever or Jeremy has ever had the chance to do that, but they were bar mitzvah and it'd be kind of different for them. But I think they would have fun doing that.
The secular music, if that's what you want to call it, of Christmas, what that we took, even in choir in a non-Catholic high school, that was, the other songs were fun in that, but that was concentration time. That was, we get this, and our choir was pretty good. We were in competitions several times and did pretty well. That was when you get serious. That was when it comes to doing it right, making sure everything is right and everything sounds good, that kind of stuff. But yeah, even to this, even now, when you hear them, if there's a song that's going to evoke emotion in Christmas, it's your religious songs, absolutely, because people forget somewhat what the holiday is
Oh
for
yeah.
them. So yeah, I have some friends who are pretty staunch Catholics who used to attend mass. Some have drifted away from it and don't go to mass anymore. I remember my brother-in-law, his family went to mass every year, I believe. My aunt and my cousin, they went to mass every year. My uncle. Sometimes it was midnight mass, sometimes it wasn't. Midnight masses, for the most part, have stopped in this area. In our area, midnight masses have stopped. Yes,
Interesting.
and part of it is it stopped since COVID.
Well, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
There's also I do know there are masses online as well.
Yeah, but that just can't be as much interesting. Yeah, I used to go to synagogue periodically, and it's just not as much. If I don't have my community around me, if I don't have the community around me, it's just not as appealing to sit in front of a screen to do that.
I was going to bring that up, and you just mentioned it. My in-laws did for I think it was actually the holiday that I ended up in the hospital. I ended up in a hospital, like I said, on one of the Jewish holidays. My in-laws put it on. They had on the mass on. One was on the computer, and then one was on the TV. I don't know if it was New York or
Like St. Patrick's
Boston.
Mass.
Boston? No. My in-laws. The
No, but I
young
mean,
kids,
you said it was on TV. I mean, that has to be a pretty major mass to be on TV.
they had one on. They had one on TV or something like that. He was watching something on TV at one point too. My father-in-law on Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah, which would Yom Kippur is the second one, right?
Yeah.
Yom Kippur,
Yeah.
I think it was, because I think that's when I went to the hospital. Yeah, it was very interesting to see it that way. I've never been to temple for that. I've never gone. So my wife has, since we've been together, at least hasn't gone either. The girls have gone, but because they're off and they go to grandma and grandpa's, and they're given a choice if they want to go or not. But yeah, and then this year my and there actually has been a change in the leadership in their temples this year. So that was kind of interesting to see. But then again, there's another thing that takes place, and I've heard a ton about it over the last few weeks. Is there's a large amount of alkathons, and there's a lot of those on Zoom that I've seen recently. We were actually supposed to have done one for New Year's Eve, but it's not happening. Long story, but it's a tough time of year for those kind of people. So for people who have a problem with addiction, it's very, very hard time of year. This is when a lot of your relapses happen.
Well,
And
unfortunately, the holidays are also so focused on consumption.
yeah,
And that's why it's got to be very difficult, I would imagine. It's we're seeing it happen now with those gambling, which is all the time now. But the holidays have always been, oh, we got to go to a bar, we have to drink, we have to do this. Yeah, that's got to be very tough.
I remember working some of the holidays in bars, and not fun at all. But then you look at some of the movies. Now, I remember growing up, there was some movies that we'll call them the Hallmark Christmas movies, which are, well, geared towards women. I don't think there's any denying that at all. My wife is obsessed with them. The interesting thing is, as there have been the apps that have come out for Discovery, for I'm trying to think of some other Hallmark, for Hallmark, for a couple other channels. I think the Oprah Network even has a few of them. There's now on these apps, there's there's sections that are dedicated to these things. And I put on Food Network the other night, and it was a Christmas movie. And I went, oh, okay. I didn't realize they were putting these on on air now. And there's actually two that have come out this year, and one has Bobby Flay in it. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, these are like actual motion pictures that they're making with some of the Food Network stars. Not to digress a little bit, they did one that was basically almost a giant infomercial for KFC, where Mario Lopez played Colonel Sanders. And it wasn't a Christmas movie. It was just a story loosely based on Colonel Sanders. It's freaking hysterical. It was also hysterical how badly produced this movie was. But yeah, that there is some terrible production values in these movies. But it definitely is a time for putting out some crazy stuff. And over the last few years, the cartoons, some of them have gone to exclusive rights by some of the media companies. I know Apple Plus has, I believe, all the Charlie Brown stuff, and it's not being shown on regular TV this year for the last couple of years. It's owned by Apple. So
that's almost criminal. I mean, that stuff should be public domain. It really should.
Totally. But property rights, and
well, and I think too, what happens to your point, Jason, is that so many things are coming out now. Just like we were talking about, what service is a Christmas Story on? Well, there's umpteen million of them out there, right? And it's on a lot of them. And now it seems like all these different streaming services have their own Christmas series or Christmas movies that are coming out. And so you think back to the traditional, when we were growing up, I think there was, you had like the Rudolph, you had the Frosty or whatever it was, there were two or three, maybe, I think
Emmett Otter.
A great, yeah. And there's, 5 or 6 that like were the staples. And now I think it's hard to find this because we don't even have cable TV here. We just go through streaming services just because the cable didn't offer that much value. The streaming services offered much more value. Mm-hmm. So I think that makes it, the technology even makes it, where the technology is, makes it a lot harder to see some of these more traditional things. And there's this proliferate, and some of it, I have fond memories of this, but my son's now a little old to be watching those at this point. But I've got some other kids, another daughter growing up here at 11, or 12, so it should be perfect age to watch some of it. But I just don't see them on the services like I used to.
It's tough to find because everything, like you said, everything's kind of decentralized now. Yeah. So, it's not like you could just go to one place, flip down through a menu and find what you want. Like TBS shows a Christmas Story for 24 hours on Christmas. It's been doing it every year. But now if you don't have cable or you don't have TV, well, where do you find TBS if it's is there a TBS streaming service? Like how does that work? Yeah, it makes it a little more complicated.
Yep, absolutely.
Warner was the one that released the new Christmas Story Christmas that came out.
Yeah.
So I believe they probably also have the original.
Yeah.
They may even have the second one, which, yes, this is Christmas Story Christmas is actually the third movie. Because there was one about summer vacation. with Ralphie. That was technically the sequel. Anyway, one thing that I have seen, and Marvel's been doing this, Disney has tasked both, for the most part, both their Star Wars division and their Marvel division to put out new programming for the holidays. Marvel snuck one in for Halloween this year of
Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night. Right.
It was really good too.
A comedy. It's very funny. It's actually really quite good. It's almost kind of, as my former sponsor said, you're expecting Boris Karloff to be in it. It's black and white. It's an older setting of a movie, older writing of a movie, like a traditional horror type movie.
Yeah.
But very well done. And then Marvel put out
I absolutely loved their Christmas thing. They did a Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, and I watched it with my boys because we're all avid Marvel addicts in this house, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was awesome. There was so much about it. I loved it.
One of the coolest things about it was, and I saw it, was the old 97s being dressed up in costume. Was like, oh shit! I'm like, that's really them. Like, wow.
Yep.
It was pretty neat. But yeah, I got a feeling you're going to see a lot of that. I think that especially Marvel, they're onto something. So I mean, am I expecting a Wakanda Christmas next year? No, but maybe. I mean, you never know with how well that movie did this year.
Yeah.
Black Panther, Wakanda Forever did really, really well, and is still, probably until this week was doing well, because I believe this week or maybe it's next week. Avatar.
Yeah, the Way of Water is coming out. Yeah.
And it will blow away, but it may not blow away. It'll end the run that Wakanda Forever has been.
Oh, it'll blow it away.
Wakanda Forever has been out for a month and a half.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty much. I only saw it last week, but the Avatar movie will be the highest watched movie in the last 5 years.
The thing with it, so here's a little inside info for you. The thing with the Avatar movie. So my brother works at AMC in New Brunswick, right? And so he's been working there for several years. He said apparently leading up to Avatar, they have had to push like software and firmware updates to all of their digital projection equipment for the last several months, like a lot of major updates and upgrades just in order to be able to show this new Avatar film.
Well, that's a good thing.
The visuals are just stunning. Absolutely stunning, according to what my brother's been saying about what they need to do in order to be able to accommodate showing this film. It's going to be crazy.
Jason, you don't have much time left to go see the original before we go see this one.
I'm not going to see it. Sorry. Anyway.
Just hopeless.
Another thing that I want to bring up is we touched on it, was the music of Christmas.
Yep.
And when it comes to breaking from traditions, for a very long time, obviously we all were subject to the Bing Crosbys, the Brenda Lees. We all have been subject to that. First time
that's great stuff.
Yeah.
Oh no, not knocking it. The first time we get a little bit of a breakaway from that is when John Lennon releases War Is Over. And then McCartney kind of comes around and does Wonderful Christmas Time. And it starts to take a little bit of this twist where you get into the rock and rollers, who are Elvis did it with Blue Christmas and all that. But the more contemporary rockers of Beatles and things like that start to come along. Another interesting one is very late in his life, Bing Crosby has this special. Oh, jeez.
I'm ready for this topic.
has this special that comes out, and he starts getting, some of the more contemporary people to come in to do. And one of the people they grab out of the blue and actually have to rewrite a Christmas song for, and that was Drummer Boy. They have to do things because they want an added part for this. He calls him an up and coming singer. Granted, he's 12, 13 years into his career at this point, David Bowie. And you get that absolutely stunning version of Little Drummer Boy that was released. Unfortunately, there was a lot of talk of what was next with those two. Unfortunately, Bing passed away not long after that's released. But now we go into the early 1980s when you have MTV come along and they start to put out music videos, and they managed to have a Christmas party one year, not long after the song was released. And that is, they tasked Billy Squier to record his now famous Christmas is the Time to Say I Love You. Records the video. They have a Christmas party around him, which they're all absolutely out of their mind under whatever substance they're doing. Knowing Nina Blackwood and J.J. Jackson, probably cocaine. It's just a classic video, and it takes off from there. Between that and a couple of years later, Special Olympics tasks several rock and rollers to put out some Christmas songs, and we get along to A Very Special Christmas, which are some of the highest selling Christmas albums in history. And we have progression from there of most people in the 80s and 90s, rockers, come out with Christmas songs. Some come out with complete albums. Then in the 2000s, you get, let's face it, classic rockers, classic heavy metal rockers, who one of them is a classically trained singer, and they task themselves with putting out a heavy metal Christmas song.
And it is badass.
It is one of, and I saw them on tour doing it live when the album first came out, and just was shocked at how good it sounded, how good Dee's voice was, and the fact that my wife fell asleep standing up. Now my now wife fell asleep standing up in Twisted Sister concert. Yes, it's true, Dave. She fell asleep standing up in Twisted Sister.
I got nothing. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah, I still don't know. I don't know how she did it, but she did.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough that my brother and I both got a chance to see the Twisted Christmas show up at Best Buy Theater up in New York. I think a couple times, like 2 or 3 times we went. As you know, when John and I go to see concerts together, it's really bad for anybody that's standing behind us because nobody's going to see the show. But yeah, getting a chance to see them put on that special with Dee coming out dressed as Santa originally and everything. That's why like the hat is from the show. I bought it. I got it at the merch table, and I wear this like all of the time now. I love my black Twisted Sister Christmas hat. I wear it everywhere. I get compliments on it, and I like seeing bands put their own spin on traditional type stuff. Take what was there before and just put your own spin and bump it up a notch. It's like like we always saw, bands like doing cover songs, and it's kind of like they're basically cover songs, but in that traditional kind of sense to put a new spin on things. It's pretty cool.
You say that Bob Seger was one of the first ones on that Very Special Christmas album. A lot of them did non-traditional or other songs. Bob was one of the first ones who put the tradition on that album of doing his now classic version of Little Drummer Boy. It's phenomenal, and it's just Bob in some of his best voice, just wailing on this Christmas song. Well, I get chills when I hear Bob's version of that song.
One of the
funniest.
funniest moments I've ever had, speaking of tradition, by the way, we talked about traditional church Christian music and how in the establishment I was in last night. That was the moment when people would really focus and really sing together. And then the next song that everybody started singing together was Adam Sandler's Hanukkah music.
Mm-hmm.
Try putting those together. That's good. Sorry to jump in, but I've been thinking about that.
No, yeah.
What a great transition.
Adam hit a gold mine on that one. I still, those are another favorite. Adam's, I think now he's up to 4 maybe Christmas songs, Hanukkah songs. He's definitely up to 3. He's done 3. And they drag him out every year and it seems like they drag him out every couple of years for SNL, and you realize that it's probably because he's got a new one and that he's doing the new one, not any of the old ones. But yeah, that's an interesting. Now another interesting one. Long time ago, when I was working at the radio station at CTC, I was working with the restaurant guys. They own Stage Left and Kathleen Lombardi's in New Brunswick, New Jersey. There you go, Keith. They brought this CD in. They're going to do an interview with this woman. Her name is Jackie Naylor. She's a jazz singer. And they play the song Shelter, and it's not jazz. It's pretty good. So Francis comes in one day and he's like, says, here, put this in. Gives me a CD and he's standing there and I'm listening to it and I hear, oh, life, bigger than you. You are not me. I know that song. And I realize then the band kicks in and this is very beautiful bass, jazz bass line. And I went, oh shit. It was Losing My Religion. It became a hit for her and her band in Germany. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely beautiful song. So the first New Year's that Elise and I spent together, we went to Kathleen Lombardi's, which is the Italian restaurant they own. Absolutely phenomenal restaurant. So we went to the concert, really, second or third row. And she does the first song, and it's a song called Thank You that Elise and I really love. And the second song she sings, and it's got this cool piano intro. Then she starts singing it, and I went, that's the Talking Heads. Once in a lifetime, I'm like, oh, damn. The whole night was a lot of stuff like that. And then cool. One of the songs she gets on the mic, she goes, how many musicians does it take to do Gershwin? Okay. I did Gershwin in high school, so I'm familiar with his music. And I went, oh. She goes, 3, the way we do it. And then all of a sudden you hear, dun, 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 dun. I stop. I'm like, no. Dun, 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 dun. I'm like,
yep.
Oh, shit. She did Back in Black, the music, and then sang My Funny Valentine over.
Sweet.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely
That's cool.
Well, about this is now 12, 13, maybe more, 14 years ago. Francis brings in the CD. It's a smash for the holidays. Okay. Put it in. And the first thing I hear is dun, 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 dun. I'm like, and she goes, turn it down. I'm like, all right. Then she sings Santa Claus is Coming to Town over it. She takes the classic rock music and sings the Christmas songs over. One of them she sings, I forgot what song it is. She's singing it over to Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You from Led Zeppelin. And her husband is wailing on the guitar. Just wailing. It's amazing to hear this version of the song. Which I've seen her husband do some amazing things. We saw a concert once on a streaming concert, and he's sitting there and he's got his right hand and he's playing the piano and he's playing the bass with the left without picking. Unbelievable. And then I noticed a couple minutes later that he's got a rocks glass with clear liquid. Well, about 20 minutes later, he went to the interview. I thought it was water. then I started to realize, as doing the interview, he was slurring pretty bad. It's probably gin. So, and he was hammered playing the bass and the piano at the same time while sloshed.
Some people just have that talent. You're making me think about something that's very interesting, that you just recounted your history, and which is all of our histories, of growing up in a world where all Christmas music was traditional until around 1980, like you said, John Lennon, all that. And we started incorporating that stuff. And don't forget the stuff they would do to bring Christmas music together for raising money for people all over the world.
Special Olympics. Yeah. And
But
poverty.
our kids have a different perspective because that's the only world they've known. They grew up in a world where all of that existed, the traditional and which they don't even pay attention to as much, and all the fun stuff and all the rock and roll bands getting together, and they're actually much more focused on that stuff, sometimes to the exclusion of what was traditional from years gone by. We can't relate to their world because we had all that foundation ahead of time. It must be a very interesting perspective to think that Christmas music means Bruce Springsteen and We Are the World and things like that. And that's their first go-to in terms of thinking of holiday music, and Adam Sandler too.
But now let's call a spade here and realize that this generation, I'm not 100% sure, knows why songs like the Bruce Springsteen stuff, why A Very Special Christmas exists, why the Band-Aid, I believe they were called, Do They Know It's Christmas came out. I'm not 100% sure they know.
Oh, I guarantee that. And I was with hundreds of people last night who are they're 20-somethings, we'll put it that way. They barely knew the words. They knew the song, but I guarantee you they have no knowledge of where it came from. It's just, to them, it's their traditional music that they just grew up with. It was always there.
That's why I say, in a way, God bless Sirius XM, Sirius Satellite Radio. They have on the app, there's tons. On the app, there's a rock and roll channel. There's acoustic channel. There's about 25 different Christmas channels. On the actual XM radio, there's at least 4 or 5 that they have on. And some of them play just the traditional stuff. Some of them mix it up. Some of them play just the more modern stuff.
Well, I'd like to be a fly in the room when Jason is playing one of those channels that does purely traditional stuff from the old days, if you will, and his daughters look at him and say, "Dad, when are you going to start playing real Christmas music?"
Nope. They put on channels 104 and 105, and that's a little bit more of the traditional stuff.
But how many kids look at their parents and say, "Well, when are you going to put on actual holiday music?"
I will say that our Christmas tree was decorated to Mr. Hankey's Christmas and Twisted Sisters. I said it already, and Twisted Christmas. So, and it is every year. It's just because that's what I have on hand.
Mhm.
I didn't play, which I probably might play today, the Smithereens version of Tommy, which has, if you listen to Tommy, the musical, I think you kind of get the sense of there's a lot of it that has to do revolves around his early years, it being Christmas.
Yeah.
Born pretty much, and then the first couple of years he's just just coming into life, and a lot of it is about Christmas. There is a song called Christmas. There's a bunch of them. Tommy doesn't know what day it is, and things like that. Of it being a lot of it is, and then there's a lot now. The big thing, the big craze is the country artists doing Christmas albums every year. There's been a rash of Christmas albums put out by the country artists. We were listening to one channel coming home from Bethlehem the other day and yesterday, and I said something because I heard Casey Musgraves one of Casey Musgrave's songs, and I went, "Is this an album?" Because I think she did. Because I heard she redid the Chipmunk Christmas song. I was like, "Oh, I wonder if it's an album." And she actually has one a few years ago. A lot of people have stuck them in country over the last like 3 or 4 years.
Mhm.
I think Darius Rucker has a Christmas album.
Yep.
And this one's got a Christmas album. Dolly Parton puts out Christmas albums every few years still. I mean, which is miles away from where we were in the 70s and 80s when, some of them wouldn't even give you the time of day for a Christmas album, especially like Johnny Cash or people like that. I mean, and the resurgence of new Christmas music, and that actually I kind of we forget. I mean, when it comes to country, one of the most famous ones that everybody knows, probably, I mean, from the first few notes of the songs, I think you know where I'm going with this. It's Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
Yep.
Came out the year I was born.
That was one of the earliest non-traditional songs I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
Oh, it may have been the very first.
Lennon's is probably the first, and then that, because that and I think McCartney's were released the same year.
Then I remember with that song, it came out on I want to say like KTEL or something like that. So my grandma brought me the album, or I think it might have been two albums. Goofy Gold, I think is what it was called. But it had that and all these just kind of remakes that were like kind of that country version and like Big Bad John and
Hmm.
I don't know what all was on. I can't remember now, but it was it was pretty good. I loved the album at the time. But and I think to talking about country's got, since I've been here in the South a little bit, I'm a little more in tune to some country music, which really I haven't been in the past. And like there's one that's like Christmas Cookies. I'm like, that's a great song. And so, about this guy, his wife making Christmas cookies and kind of some of the shenanigans that go on with her making them. But then the other thing for me being exposed to now with the Colombians in the house is, the other day we're putting up the Christmas tree. And so I look up, like Spanish Christmas songs. So like I get this whole other genre, like, of course it's got Feliz Navidad, which everybody knows.
Mhm.
But there's so many on there that I don't know, and I couldn't even tell you now, like even after listening to them a couple times, what they are. But there's a ton out there.
Funny, Feliz Navidad came up last night. Again, I was in a room of hundreds of people with most of whom were in their 20s, and every songs would begin by one person getting up on a chair and starting to sing it, and then the room would join in. And when that song came on, a great deal, if not, I guess the whole song was originally completely not in English.
Mhm.
And the person was trying to do that, but the room wouldn't cooperate because the room didn't know the words. So the room immediately converted to English, and you could tell the frustration on this poor girl's face because she was trying to do and I don't know if she was Spanish speaking or not, but she was trying to do the traditional version.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was having a thing to do with that.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Is he did the Spanish version, but then he remade it, and it became very, very popular, and it's still popular.
Oh, very much so.
Jose
By the way,
Feliciano, right?
do you know anybody who actually knows the words to Auld Lang Syne?
No.
Yeah. We found that out again last night. Nope. Needed sheet for that stuff. But I even wonder if my sons know that song, like period. Do they even pay attention to that song? If I said the name Guy Lombardo to them, would they know who that is?
Oh, I would doubt it. I would doubt it.
See, and that's one of the things that I, every once in a while I get flack from a younger person if I say, "Oh, do you know this?" and like, "Oh, that's really old. Why would I know about that?" I'm like, "Well, have you heard of this thing called history? Like, listen, there's some great things that exist in the past before you were born. Things mattered before you were born. Believe me."
Back in my day.
Because the younger
and that's how I look. Right? That's how I
the
sound
younger
right
people
now.
think that when we
But
bring
still,
up
there's some good stuff
Yeah.
that I
If
think
they
they can
think
learn
that
from.
if they think that if we bring up history, we're trying to say, oh, it was better back then. It's not a good, I keep trying to say to people, it's not a question of it being better. It's just part of the stuff that today's stuff came from. It's history,
Yep.
and it's also good stuff. But I think the younger generation, and I think every younger generation thinks this, that if you bring up that stuff, you're trying to top what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not why we bring up Guy Lombardo and stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
just
I mean that was good from my opinion. That was good stuff on its own. Plus, as Jason I think does an effective job of, he kind of tells the history, kind of what led to what. There's a series of events, and then with MTV, we had all these stars that could get together and they could produce something in one location, and it was things like that. That understanding where this music came from. For me, it's interesting. For others, I guess not. Less so.
yeah. Guy Lombardo. I haven't even thought of Guy Lombardo in years. Jeez. But I grew up in a house of, well, my parents would throw a New Year's Eve party every year. Literally every year of my life, there's been a New Year's Eve party thrown by the Bogans. And that, we would always have the same channel on. We'd always watch the Guy Lombardo band. They'd always perform a Lang Syne right at midnight. Talk about traditions. I mean, now the networks and whoever you watch New Year's Eve stuff with are going to do something completely different every year, different
Performers, different artists. Yeah.
right. But it was for the first 20 years of my life, it was like you just hit record, play on a recording. The same thing every single year. You watch the exact same thing, the exact same people, the exact same performance.
Every
That
year.
would not fly today. And that was done very differently in those days.
Oh, the new ones now, the New Year's shows, they're terrible. They're absolutely horrible. Ever since Ryan Seacrest took over for Dick
For Dick
Clark,
Clark, yeah.
awful. I know, but Carson Daly does one, and I think Ryan Seacrest does one. I thought the funny one was a couple of years ago when what's her name got caught lip syncing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Was it Mariah Carey?
Got caught lip syncing on New Year's Eve. So I think that pretty much I wish it would have effectively put an end to the New Year's celebrations, but it didn't. They were quite interesting the last few years. 2020 was very, very strange to see. Sorry, 2021 technically was very strange to see, and last year was only a slightly better with the amount of people there. This year, I think we're going to be much closer to seeing the big blowouts. They probably will limit the amount of people that are there, but I think the limits will be much less strict than they have been the last 2 years. As we head into 2023.
As we also see the numbers of COVID escalating and skyrocketing again, but people are done with that, so they're not going. They're going to get together, and we're going to have massive outbreaks. But fortunately, most are vaccinated. It's not a big deal.
Okay. It is what it is at this point.
Right. It's now part of what we live with, as opposed to what we avoid. Yes.
Yeah.
But I'll still be home.
Well,
I'm not.
And where are you headed, Dave?
I am hopefully going to be home. I have no desire to be out amongst people. There was a time where New Year's Eve was spent. I used to go down to Jenkinson's in Point Pleasant. Back in a former life, I would go there. I would ring in the new year with the nerds at Jenkinson's and Point. Did it a number of years in a row, had a great time, a fantastic time, and there's no way in hell I would ever do that right now. I'm just too old for that crap.
I'm surprised they're not too old for that crap.
That is a band. They are timeless. The Nerds are just timeless. It's just amazing. They've been around. I swear to God, they've been playing for like 4 decades. They're like eternal. It's crazy.
Well, probably 3, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they're as old as we think they are. They're older than they're probably older than us, but not much.
Yeah.
Maybe the oldest one is probably in his mid-50s.
Yeah.
But yeah, but then again, look at Brian Kirk and the Jerks too. They've been around forever.
Yeah.
There's a couple that have been around forever, and the Soul Cruisers were around until recently, which I think the last one of them may have passed away recently. But anyway, it's been different, like I said, the last few years, with my family. But I believe this year again, it's probably going to be actually on Christmas Day. It'll be my in-laws and Elise and the girls and I. 2 years ago, I believe it was the first time we actually did it, and they released Disney this was during the streaming time where they were releasing. Well, HBO Max started releasing a year's worth of new movies.
Yeah.
Every month they release, or every couple of weeks they release something new. Disney released Soul on Christmas night 2 years ago, or on Christmas weekend 2 years ago, and we sat here and watched that. I made dinner and then we watched Soul, which was absolutely a breathtaking Pixar film. I put it up there as definitely in the top 10 of the Pixar films. This year, I don't know what I want to try to get to it before Christmas, but Paramount Plus is releasing the second Top Gun onto streaming service on the 22nd. So maybe put in the first one, put on the first one, rewatch that, and watch the second one. Hopefully, probably sometime a little bit before Christmas, actually. And I'm sure Christmas Eve night, I can guarantee you, will be Die Hard at some point.
Of course.
And then Christmas Day, I have a feeling, I know what I'm doing. I might make breakfast. We'll see, and then start on working on making dinner. Christmas Eve is a little bit compromised, only slightly. I actually will be leading my second to last meeting for AA that morning, and we usually will get congregate at my sister's around 1, so it may be legitimately. I'm tasked to make a crawfish pie every year, so that'll probably be done the night of the 23rd, and then warmed up on the 24th. And then come home, get my pajamas, and go to my sister's, because that is Christmas tradition that we most of us go over in pajamas. It's starting to get more and more difficult sometimes to do things like that because of just timing and things like that. But
yeah,
it's been good that we still have it as a tradition.
It's weird, you bring up a good point. Like this year, I mean, my plan was to, my mom was going to come up and we were going to have, something nice and figure things out. And now, my boys are going to be with their mom. My daughter's doing her thing. And my mom's, not visiting. So, my wife and I are like, what are we going to do for Christmas? And we could go up and see her family, but they're kind of a mess. So we're like, I don't know. It's weird to be in that spot. My kids are 21, 16, and 14. I'm starting to come to that point in time now where it's like, you have 20 plus years of tradition that you've done, but now the kids have gotten to the point where now they're doing their own thing, and those traditions, it's hard to hold them up because not everybody's together. So how do you're kind of left with I can't do what I'm supposed to do. What am I going to do? It's weird. Yeah, there's a bit of uncertainty as you get older.
Yeah, so I think we're kind of there. So we're going to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So we're gonna spend Christmas and Christmas Eve there, and then Frankie's coming in on the 26th, and then we'll find something to do. And one of the things I like doing is celebrating New Year's in other countries. But the thing about Latin America is that a lot of times they like to celebrate at home. So it's sometimes it's kind of hard to find things going on, but usually there's some hotels that have some sort of, fun dinner and entertainment, fireworks, those kinds of things that are going on. So, but we'll be staying by the old city in Puerto Rico. So, hopefully we'll find something fun and good.
Have you been to Puerto Rico?
I have not.
I have a couple of people at work who are from there, so I
Mhm.
can actually, if you bear with me, I'll ask our plant manager, where he's from and what's around and what there is to do, and get back to you on that.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds
He
good.
lived there. He lived there for a very long time, so he knows and goes back still. So I'm sure he'll know some places to go,
Yep.
because I have a feeling that Puerto Rico may have some American ideals when it comes to New Year's. So you probably will. That's probably one of the better places if you're going to be in Latin America, the Caribbean,
Yeah.
to go to for New Year's.
Right. Right.
I know there's some things to do around here. I'm sure there'll probably be a lot of places that'll be up and moving for New Year's, but not my thing for obvious reasons.
Clearly.
No reason to be able to have to do that. I again have a meeting on the last meeting I'll lead is New Year's Eve, the morning of New Year's Eve. So I'll come home early. I'll be home early, really early. I'll probably be home by noon, unless somebody decides, hey, let's go for lunch or something, go hang out somewhere, which has occasionally will happen. But there's I have some ideas for New Year's that may include going down to Atlantic Highlands and getting some Maine lobster, but we'll see.
Ooh.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Yeah, there's a
But
place down there that the guys are two brothers. One has stuff as a place in Maine, and one has a place down here in Atlantic Highlands. And I was told by my former sponsor that they're psychotic when it comes to doing their treatment of things and how they treat the lobsters, and that these things are literally pulled out of the water, put in the thing. The water is oxidized to the regular level that they're accustomed to, and they're brought down in a truck, and then they're loaded in here in the restaurant in the fish market the same way, and it's the same setup that they're used to. They're only transported very little time out of water. It's just apparently these things are phenomenal. So, but they've got a bunch of different things. I actually had got soft shell crabs from there in July, and they were the best soft shell crabs I've probably ever had. So this place knows what they're doing. It's called Lusty Lobster down in Atlantic Highlands, and probably head down to one of the meat markets down in which we got a new one called Wild Fork that has it's all frozen, but they have a lot of different products that you can't really get very much. Other than that, I don't know. New Year's probably was very quiet. It's been very quiet the last few years. Last year, in fact, I sat here and finally watched the last Batman movie. Not the Batman, the Christopher Nolan series.
Yeah. The one with Bane.
Tom Hardy. Yeah.
Yep.
Bane. Which was this is an interesting story about him kind of crashing a wedding, not realizing it as Bane, because they had shot a scene and he turned around and there's a wedding behind him on the ledge that he's standing. They didn't know. So he's like, and the guy, apparently the groom was like a fan of DC. He's like, and he jumped down and started taking pictures with people. So they said DC, the director was cracking up watching him do this. And he said, I'm watching him with binoculars and they're goofing off with people. But so Keith, I know besides from dinner and a movie, I guess, what are your plans for Hanukkah? Do you have anything planned? The boys won't be there, right?
Well, Justin's here, but Jeremy, of course, and that's it. With all the things you're talking about, it has struck me as very interesting that no matter how much you try to hold tradition together, like Dave was talking about, time moves on, especially when the kids get older. ever since marching band has invaded our lives, it has changed our lives. But especially when you go to school where you're constantly in bowl games or even the college football playoffs, I'm hardly going to see Jeremy at all. Jeremy will be home. I'm going to go fetch him from Ohio on the 18th, which happens, by the way, I believe to be the first day of Hanukkah.
It is.
And then he goes back. I think I'm going to have to take him back on the 26th, depending on how the college football playoffs go. I may not see him again because he may just stay at school, even though, all the way through the beginning of the next semester. If for some miracle Ohio State can beat Georgia in the semifinal, then they wouldn't play the next game for a week. And at that point, they're right up against the beginning of the next semester.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is our lives between marching band especially in the fall, and drum corps. I was just telling other people about this. Jeremy is typically home maybe 10 days in the winter. Doesn't come home for fall break, doesn't come home for Thanksgiving, can't because of marching band. Spring break last year was literally canceled because because COVID, they didn't want them leaving campus and coming back in great numbers. So he didn't. I think he'll come home this year for a few days for spring break, and then he'll be home around May 10th and leave June 1. Actually, he may not come home at all because he's switching drum corps. So he may just go straight from school to whatever drum corps he marches for and not be home all summer. It's a very odd thing when you are involved in this sort of thing. Most people see their kids for a variety of things during the year. I don't. Justin's home now and he's retired from all that stuff, so I'll see him much more of that. I don't know. This is the first year Justin's been home. I have no idea what we're going to do other than we will light candles. We do that. It's the only thing that pays homage to the traditions of Hanukkah. We don't typically do presents here. Or I might get him a couple of small things, but it's one of the things I've ingrained on the boys is the reality of Hanukkah, which is it's actually a very minor holiday. It's not a major holiday in the traditions of Judaism, so we don't do much. It was one of the things where I kind of disagreed a lot with my former wife, because she wanted to make it a big thing every night, and spend a lot of money and get them lots of stuff. And I didn't think that was teaching them the right traditions of what Hanukkah represented. So we would often clash on that particular point, among others. But now, like I said, Jeremy will be home in time, so I think we'll be able to do all the days of Hanukkah together in terms of lighting candles. Now that I think about it, I probably should do something and acknowledge it in other ways too. But it's interesting. I mean, it could be like we might I might get him tickets to a basketball game or something like that, so we can go as a family, like a Nets game or something like that, or go to a Devils game or something local. We used to use the holiday season, not for the holidays, but it was our time when it was the rare time we were together. So we would travel to different sporting events. And I mean, when I talk travel, I mean travel. The last time we did it, we try to do all three major sports. Obviously, baseball is not playing this time of the year. But the other three major sports, we'd catch one of each in consecutive days. So the last time we did it, we drove to Charlotte for a basketball game. We went to where the Tennessee Titans play in Tennessee for a football game, and then to Chicago for a Blackhawks game in consecutive days.
Holy crap.
Driving. And then the way it worked out, we wanted to go to the Football Hall of Fame the next day, but for some reason on December 25th it was closed. So some holiday on December 25th. I don't know what the hell that was all about, but so the damn place was closed. But so we would then from there we went on the same trip we went to the Baseball Hall of Fame, the Hockey Hall of Fame, and the Basketball Hall of Fame after that. But we missed the Football Hall of Fame. And that's the kind of stuff that's our tradition, is to do things together like that usually revolve around sports, but there's no acknowledgement of the holidays at all. It just happens to be that time of the year.
I think that's a pretty good place to leave us as we push up.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything they want to add before we head out of here?
Nope. I think I'm pretty good.
I love Dave's hat though.
Thank you. Twisted Christmas for everybody.
Well, we'll be recording again before Christmas, I think.
Yeah.
Delana has the Santa showdown, but I don't think we have to be there till 12:30. So most likely, if we do it at 8, we shouldn't have a problem. We have, we've gotten. I can't believe we're actually only 2 weeks away from Christmas, a week away from Hanukkah. But here we are. And it's hopefully it's just a slightly better holiday season for everybody than the last 2 years have been. It's pretty much all we can hope for. So from all of us here at Dad's on Life, take care, everybody, and Keith, eat my shorts.
He's back. He's back.
Yes.
I said it twice today.
Made up for the last
He
time.
made up
There
for
you go.
last week. Good
I
job,
gotta make up
Jason.
for the time before. So I got 2 more this next week, and we're caught up. So.